One world currency.
The New World Order.
Those are the roots of trouble.
I imagine that right now you're feeling a bit like Alice, tumbling down the rabbit hole. Let me tell you why you're here. You're here because you know something. What you know you can't explain, but you feel it. You felt it your entire life. That there's something wrong with the world. You don't know what it is, but it's there, like a splinter in your mind, driving you mad. It is this feeling that has brought you to me. This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. All I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed. But I am asking your help in the tremendous task of informing and alerting the American people.
And now, welcome to another episode of Down the Rabbit Hole. Here's your host from federaljack.com. It's Popeye.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to tonight's live Monday edition. It is February 25th, 2013. And tonight I'm going to be covering a subject that's near and dear to everybody's hearts, even if they don't realize it. Another one of those things that connects all of us. Like last week I was talking about how guns and cannabis are connected. True freedom. Well, guess what else is connected to true freedom? Food. And our food health. And our choice of what we put into our bodies. Whether or not we want aspartame or genetically modified organisms, or if we want to have organic, non-pasteurized milk, raw milk, the evil Al-Qaeda milk, right? And over the course of, I would say, the past year and a half, the raids on these raw milk dispensaries, it might even go back even further than that, but at least over the course of the past year and a half, these raids on these raw milk dispensaries and farms have just increased, and it is sickening to say the least. It is absolutely despicable to say the least, okay? Absolutely despicable. Raw milk raids, SWAT team style in some cases. Or how about the raw food place in California that was raided at gunpoint? What would happen if somebody had walked out with one of those price scanner guns and the cops thought it was a gun and they shot the guy in the back of the store there, the little area that they came in through the back there? What would have happened in that situation? I mean, just no common sense, ladies and gentlemen. Hello? We live in Soviet Russia? That's why on Facebook and Twitter I titled the show USSA. I put the USSA in the title of it when I was advertising the show. We live in the USSA. It's ridiculous. Absolutely and utterly ridiculous. So I want to get into these raw milk raids, okay? And in order to do this properly, I needed to bring on an investigative journalist who has dived into this and exposed this tyrannical type behavior for what it is. And she's been covering it for a while now. And I've actually been really wanting to get her on the broadcast because she just does great investigative journalism. You can see her work over at Activist Post. Her name is Heather Callaghan, and she's going to be coming on with me. And I'm going to tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, after tonight, if you don't think that we live in a Soviet-style tyrannical mixture of, I would say, Nazi-esque and Soviet style together, tyrannical police state, I don't know what to tell you. So let me bring to the airwaves my guest, Heather. Heather, welcome to the broadcast.
Thank you so much, Popeye.
Your work is, I've been following your work, and your work is really in-depth when it comes to the raw milk raids and the stuff that's been going on. So let's start off with the newest one that's happened recently, this past January. I believe it was called the Morningland Dairy that was raided.
Yes. Yeah, it was the final and last raid, because they were raided originally about 2.5 years ago.
Oh, okay. So then this goes back even further. All right. So let's let's start off in the beginning. Let's go back 2.5 years. I'll give you the floor. Take as much time as you need. Start off in the beginning with the Morningland Dairy raid. How did this all start?
Coincidentally, there's a connection with the Rossum raid that happened, I believe, in 2010. Basically, Rossum was like a food co-op based in Los Angeles, and they had been getting some of their raw cheese from Morningland Dairy in the Midwest, or actually it's in the Ozarks, Missouri Ozarks is where they were based. And they had some of their cheese there, and when the feds got into the Rossum, they took note of Morningland Dairy cheese, and they say they tested it. There's no accountability for this whatsoever, and they say they found a bacteria in it. But they kept it for 50 days, and then before you know it, when the owners of Morningland Dairy were out at a conference, they got phone calls and I think visitors from inspectors while they were away. Then it was a few days later that some federal agents came in military garb with arms to make sure to inspect the place and basically go in and sample everything. But basically where it stood over 2 years ago now is they never found anything. They never found any kind of bacteria, but they never let them operate their company ever again. And they embargoed all the cheese and they locked it so nobody can get into it. They couldn't even use it to feed their animals. So, and they told them to their face that this food isn't fit to feed dogs without even being sure that there was anything wrong with it. And the entire company, even the drain pipes, were clean. And the way that they did the testing and went through these court trials was very shoddy and pretty shady too. And everyone fought this. They raised money to try to make up for all the cheese, because as soon as their operations stopped processing and everything and they had to keep the cheese locked up, they still had cows to feed. And they still had this hope that they would be back. But nobody ever gave them any hope for that. Not the FDA, and certainly not the agents in Missouri, the inspectors. And they wouldn't dispose of it. And the FDA and the Missouri Milk Board wanted them to destroy their own work. And we're talking $250,000 worth of cheese, because they made this fine artisan raw cheese. And they just wouldn't do it because they still had this hope. And it would have been just very defeating. So they kept it locked up. And then finally, pretty much without any word, they sent some inspectors out there to get rid of it with dump trucks, to just dump it in a landfill, a local landfill. And people rallied around in support. And they tried to talk to the agents to try to get them to see how crazy this was and how wrong it was. And Morningland Dairy was a really neat company that employed some very poor people out in that remote area in the Ozarks. So when these fresh food, small farm places are allowed to thrive, they really boost the local economy. They provide jobs and they provide access to fresh food where some people can't find it, or some people have to drive an hour to a grocery store. And so it affects a lot of people and affected a lot of families. And during this 2-year ordeal, they didn't really know whether to keep operating or try something else. But now that it has been disposed of, all of it, without ever a single test on the cheese that was in the farm, not one test on the cheese itself, it's all gone now. So now they have to figure out what the next chapter is for them. And this is how the bureaucrats and the FDA wipe out family farms like that. And a single family farm can't really take on the entire FDA by itself. So they're kind of getting certain people in their crosshairs and knocking them down one by one, unbeknownst to us. Most of the time, it's only when people talk about it or write about it or try to do something to help. And if they just keep doing this and they're all being knocked down around us, we're not going to have any hope for any kind of food that isn't irradiated or processed or filled with GMOs. We're losing it if we don't do something.
And I saw the footage of the raid, which I'm going to play some of the audio from in a little bit. But they even said that, you didn't test all of the cheese and this and that. And I don't know the exact details of everything, but it seemed like they were destroying, and I wrote it down. I know in the raid that happened on the 25th of this year, the 25th of January of this year, 2013, it was 36,420 pounds or 18.2 tons of inventory of this cheese that was removed. But did they actually, according to what they were saying and the owners and everything, they didn't test all 36,420 pounds of cheese. So they basically stole 18.2 tons of product from these people.
Yeah, and destroyed it. And you're correct. They didn't even test one crumb, not one bit.
And what was their reasoning for destroying that much material? I mean, 18.2 tons, ladies and gentlemen, that's a lot of cheese. That's a lot of product for these people. That's a lot of inventory. That's a lot of money that the government just came in and stole from them and destroyed. I mean, how would you like if someone came into your house and took your food supply out and dumped it on your front lawn and proceeded to light it on fire or whatever? I mean, that's just insane. What was their reasoning for this, Heather?
It was simply the Rawson food raid. When they found a piece of cheese, they did a very questionable test on it, which I can tell you what they did. Basically, because what this poor man, one of the owners of Morningland Dairy, he went and got his own cheese tested, and it all came back clear. But first, it came back with some bacteria in it. But raw cheese has good bacteria in it, so those tests don't really mean anything. And someone at a laboratory tested it for him and told him, that doesn't mean anything. One little test with a bacteria specimen doesn't mean anything. When you do a really full test, which is, I mean, if the FDA was doing their job or some of these bureaucrats, they would be doing this, running a full gamut of tests, which, by the way, all these processes are costing us, the taxpayer, lots of money. And the people in Morningland Dairy even would have rather given this food to hungry people, and they did. Not after the raid, but they would give some cheese to hungry people in the area. And so when you run the full gamut of tests, though, there's a lot to take into consideration, but that doesn't sound like what happened in California. And then we're talking about information going between states, and we're talking about cheese that's been sitting for 55 days before they do anything about it. So it's like there's no accountability, but not one piece of cheese in their inventory was tested, and it wasn't even the same cheese that was at Rawson raid at all. So this whole thing was kind of a witch hunt and a scare, and this is an MO of the FDA and the bureaucrats who take their orders and lick the boots of the FDA. They just cry wolf, they cry cannibal actor, they cry listeria, and then this is how they shut down an entire small-scale farm. And
so how about we show up at these FDA inspectors' houses en masse, and we cry traitor, and we break into their house and cart them off to jail, bring them to a jail. 100 people carry her into the jail and say to the police, lock this person up, she's a traitor. And then we go confiscate, he or she, and then we go and confiscate all of their belongings, their house, their car, their DVDs, their whatever. And we divvy it up amongst people that we feel deserve it because they've been damaged or whatever. I mean, how would they like it? They wouldn't. This is absolute tyranny. And,
yes.
I'm glad that the reason I made you kind of repeat that the reason about the cheese getting taken again, even though I know you had said it in the beginning, the reason I made you say it again was because Rawsome is the food raid I was referring to with the guns, where the cops came in with their guns drawn.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I know you know that, but I wanted to show how this all connects, ladies and gentlemen. This is insane. Why do cops come in to a raw food place with their guns drawn? Get on the ground, blah, get on the ground, scumbag, you illegal, blah, blah, blah. It's raw food. I mean, what are you going to do? You're going to waste a bunch of vegans because they choose not to eat meat? Really? Or just raw foodies, whatever they call themselves. You're going to waste a bunch of people because they choose to eat healthy and they don't want to eat your Burger King and all this other garbage. I mean, It's just insane. And for the officers doing it, just doing my job, I'm sorry, that doesn't cut it. You and I were talking about this off air. Ladies and gentlemen, when you hear the audio from one of Heather's articles, it's the audio from the raid in January of this year. And you'll hear these guys, they work for the state or whoever, and they're like, well, we're just doing our job. I'm just here to do my job. And they're being confronted with the reality of stuff, and they're like, oh, I'm not here to talk about that. I'm just here to take the stuff and help remove it from your property. So they don't want to know the consequences of what they're doing. They just want to do it.
Mm-hmm. And they look pretty smug while they're doing it. I mean, they're getting a good salary from us to do that to this family.
Absolutely disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to make sure that at one point during the broadcast tonight, in fact, at more than one point, we're going to make sure, the two of us, that we get out the information so that we can help these people too. Because I know that this is a struggle for them, and I know it's got to be a huge, massive financial burden. And to be able to fight the federal government, I don't think people understand when they say, well, I would stand up to the feds. Well, it costs a lot of money to do that. And the reason it costs a lot of money is because they have the keys to the printing press, and we don't. So they have the unlimited credit. I mean, we all know it's fake and that they can't really continue to do it forever, but in their eyes they can, and they will. And they'll spare no expense to send, these farmers and raw food producers to jail. I mean, can you imagine that? We want to put people in jail for producing raw food. What? Heather, did I wake up in the Twilight Zone this morning?
Yeah. I feel like I'm in the Twilight Zone. And the thing is, they're closing in on us because, and David Grumper, author of Raw Milk Revolution, said that this is a part of war. I mean, look what they're doing to the food supply. But this year especially, they're closing in with the Food Modernization Safety Act that, was started by the FDA and the Obama administration about 2 years ago. And for all the talk of Obama administration about healthy food and everything, they do not want us to have any of this stuff. Like, Michelle Obama can grow a garden all she wants and have kids running around on the lawn, but they do not believe that we deserve any of this stuff. And they're closing in because they have to attack these small farms and everything. First of all, to make them look bad or make them look like they're doing something wrong. And then second of all, because they are shutting down, they are going to do this in mass very soon with this Food Modernization Safety Act. They're going to squash them. And they're also going to make sure that all the food we eat, like from the grocery store, has been killed. It's going to be radiated because they're going to say there's bacteria in it. It's a bacteria witch hunt. And when it's radiated, you're just getting tummy filler at that point. Which means if you're not getting it local or growing your own, and it's probably going to become illegal very soon, if not already, then you're not getting anything.
And a lot of people don't realize that you're not kidding when you say growing your own food is going to become illegal.
Yes.
Monsanto is behind bills in Congress right now to outlaw growing your own food. They want to make it a crime, punishable by SWAT team raids, for you to have a garden on your balcony in your apartment. You could be funding Al-Qaeda with your, garden of whatever the hell you grow out of. You could be growing tomatoes, and it doesn't matter. You're now suddenly an Al-Qaeda supporter. And this is all part of Codex Alimentarius.
Yes,
that's
absolutely.
What this really is.
Yes.
This isn't Obama. See, a lot of people will go, oh, it's Obama and the FDA. No.
Mm-mm.
They're just carrying out their orders from the UN. Codex Alimentarius, totally.
You are 100% correct, because that's where the FDA takes its orders. And Codex is from the UN. It's from 2 branches of the UN.
Yep, this is disgusting. This is actual UN doctrine being put out in front of you right now, ladies and gentlemen. I've talked about Codex over the years. I've posted it on Federal Jack over the years, and many, many other researchers have talked about Codex Alimentarius, and a lot of people think it's a joke. Oh, come on, that'll never happen. Really? Look in the UK. David Icke's talked about it. He's got rheumatoid arthritis in his hands, right? He takes, he uses a lot of like Chinese herbs and stuff to help with the pain and swelling and everything. He made a point of I think he either did a video or wrote an article about it. I don't know, about a year ago when they did this. The UK, they banned all those stores. They don't have the natural spices and all that stuff and herbs and all that stuff anymore. It's illegal. And that's going to come here too. People go, oh no, get out of here. Really? You're going to start to see GNC and Whole Foods getting raided. And if you think I'm lying, just stay tuned. You'll see it. Vitamin shops too. What do you say, Heather?
That is happening, and also naturopathic doctors do get arrested, and they're going after them. And also, for instance, like a lot of us like our natural remedies, like even whether it's homemade or bought at a health food store, colloidal silver, which can help you during the event of, let's say biowarfare or an epidemic, whatever, colloidal silver might be the thing that you need. Well, that's what they banned in European Union. They banned it over there. That ban that you're talking about was a full sweep.
Yep, you're right. Colloidal silver was one of the things that was banned and forbade. The slaves were forbade from having access to colloidal silver. Now, ladies and gentlemen, how the hell is that for your personal safety? Well, one person maybe have OD'd on colloidal silver and they turned blue. Really? So their skin turned blue. Maybe they felt a little icky or something. Is that really dangerous compared to big pharma meds where people take these things and they either end up losing their mind or they have a mixture of these medications and suddenly they drop dead of a heart attack? Or, look, Heath Ledger and how many others, although some of those supposed deaths due to prescription medications and stuff like that are false. That kind of stuff was used to cover up the real death. But a lot of these deaths that are from overdoses on prescription medications, that stuff's okay. But natural, eating raw, that's no good. Can't have that. Ladies and gentlemen, bottom of the hour break sneaking up on us. Do not go anywhere. Another hour and a half with my guest, Heather Callaghan. You check out her work over at Activist Post. We'll be right back. It's just outrageous. Nobody sees this. Nobody pays attention to what's going on. It's about true freedom. It's about the freedom to choose what you put in your body. It's about the freedom to choose whether or not you want bacon. It's about the freedom to choose whether or not you want raw food. It's about the freedom to choose whether or not you want anything. If you want to put cannabis in your body, it's your choice. If you want to put McDonald's in your body, it's your choice. You should make an informed choice, but it's your choice. If you want to put GMO foods in your body, it's your choice. And if you don't have that freedom to make that choice, guess what? So the one common thing that whether or not you believe in you believe in eating raw foods, if you believe in owning guns, if you believe in smoking pot, if you believe in free speech, if you believe in making the banks accountable for anything, the one thing that keeps a lot of those might seem opposed to one another, right? People, oh, well, this person's that type of label. Or no, we're all connected by freedom, free choice. And if we let either the feds, the state, or the UN come in and tell you can't eat raw milk, you can't have cheese, you can't have this, you can't have that. What's next? What, are they going to come into your house now and start doing UN inspections? I'm going to tell you what, if you don't stand up to this type of tyranny and you don't say no, and you don't say enough is enough, this will never stop. This will just continue to happen. Incrementalism, frogs in the pot. Again, if they turn the water up too fast, we hop out. We'll see what's going on. They have to incrementally do the law, change the laws behind the scenes, push further the agenda, and at the same time, they have to manipulate society to accept it. See, it's a two-pronged attack. It's left and right, if you want to use the terminology, if you want to look at it like two hands. The one hand pushes the agenda behind the scenes. The other hand has to get the PR, the people out in the front. They have to get people to accept it. That's how they, you notice they start to change things in media. They start to change the way people think about things. They have to do that. Otherwise, why do you think people are so complacent? I mean, Heather, can you imagine if they tried raiding a raw food farm, 100 years ago? If the federal government, 100 years ago came in gangbusters style and tried raiding some raw food farm. I mean, first of all, most things were raw food. And processed food started to come in around the late 1800s, but more people ate raw food and organic or whatever than pasteurized and processed type foods. So, can you imagine 100 years ago the federal government of yesteryear trying to come in and raid a raw milk farm or a dairy or something? I can't picture how I can picture how that would go. It would not bode well for the federal government.
Well, it didn't when they did that to the Native Americans. And they did do that to the Native Americans, and they picked a peaceful people, somebody that they find to be weaker or less human than them. And they did, affect their food supplies. But I tell you what, though, if it happened to the pioneers, I can tell you how that would have went down.
Oh yeah, and because they had a different mindset back then. I mean, that's a big part in this too. The mindset of the people that allow things like this to go on. I mean, people just sit there and it's okay. I mean, it's raw food. Look, the government must know better. Bacteria scares me, Heather. I hear the term bacteria, and I'm like, ooh, scary bacteria. Heather, what do I do? The bacteria is going to get me. Will you irradiate all my food and kill all the good bacteria in it too? I mean, does the federal government pay attention? Even doctors know that giving too many antibiotics and killing bacteria is not a good thing. Why do you think they don't give antibiotics out anymore the way they used to? Because
that's true.
They started to create super bugs. And why? Because not only do antibiotics kill good bacteria or bad bacteria, but they kill good bacteria too, like the stuff in your stomach. That's why when most people take antibiotics, they either get constipated or they get a version of Montezuma's Revenge. Now, why is that? Well, because you have bacteria in your stomach that keeps everything, it helps digest everything. It keeps your whole stomach operating on a normal 100% functioning efficiency level. That's how your body's supposed to function, normal nominal levels. And when you take antibiotics, it kills the good bacteria. So what happens if we're supposed to be eating foods like yogurt per se? And I'm not talking about the yogurt with GMO crap or corn syrup or aspartame. I'm talking about like organic, real, say you eat organic yogurt. Well, there's cultures in that, okay? What happens if they decide, well, even though it's organic and it doesn't have aspartame or some of this other fake crap that some of these other yogurts have in it? Nope. You can't have it until we send it through our version of the food naked X-ray body scanner, and turn it into useless garbage. Because as soon as you microwave your food, you've killed all the nutrients in your food. Like you said, it's tummy filler. That's all it's for. It's garbage tummy filler, useless. It's not going to do you any good. Just unbelievable. And I see my friends, some of them, I've gotten a few of them to get away from the microwave, but some of them, they still microwave their food. And I'm like, you realize you might as well just chuck the food out, right? It's useless. You just killed all you just killed everything in there. I mean, talk about, everybody says, oh, microwaves are great. Maybe there's no conspiracy, but it just makes one wonder, Codex Alimentarius, by the way, is not a new idea. This is something you can see it goes back. Actually, the idea goes back at least a couple hundred years. Okay, but because, like Heather said, it's a method of control. Controlling food is a method of warfare. That's what we're seeing. We're seeing warfare, but not the way people understand it. It's not one country versus another. It's the powers that shouldn't be, who want to run things in this country, are literally at war with the rest of the civilians, the citizens of this world. And they're doing it like Kissinger talked about this. He talked about you control the food, you control the world. And I don't know if that's the exact quote, but it's something to that effect. I'm paraphrasing a little bit. Like, if you control the food, you control the world. Enough said. One of the most evil men in the history of this country that's still walking around right now. And he's saying, look, if we can control food, we can pretty much call the shots over anything. Doesn't matter. Politics, schmolitics, money, money's nothing. If I control food and your ability to actually eat and survive and your water, we control everything. And that's what they're doing. And the free choice, too. And the free choice, which you put so eloquently during the break.
Well, you hit the nail on the head with everything that you said after that about, do what you want to do, but it's like if we don't stand up for everyone, even if we don't like what they're doing personally, it's going to happen to us. Like, for instance, these Amish farmers that are getting attacked. The news is calling them raw milk farmers, but a lot of times that's not what they are. They're actually food co-op coordinators, which means they're not just delivering raw milk to their members. It's fresh foods, any kind of food. So, and it's local. And aren't we supposed to be supporting local now? And they'll say that. They'll say it's great to support local, and then they'll squash these people, and, they'll drag you down right along with them.
Yeah, they will. And, I mean, squashing, going after Rawsome Foods, rating it the way they did, and then to go after a raw cheese place from finding a piece of cheese at Rawsome Foods that they said had bacteria on it. And even, let's play devil's advocate, okay? Let's say it did have some bacteria on it. How do they know that bacteria came from the manufacturing process at the place that made the cheese, the farm or whatever you want to call it that made the cheese? How do they know that didn't happen after the cheese was exposed to other raw food that maybe, yes, does have bacteria on it, even though it's a private food co-op and the members all sign a piece of paper that says the food is raw and may cause problems, just so, there could be some adverse health effects. There is always a possibility of that, and we just want to let you know, yeah, no problem, I take full blah, 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 but I mean, a little common sense is all it takes when you look at this stuff. It's just absolutely amazing how our very freedom to choose what you eat. I mean, people, if you don't think we live in a police state, we live in a police state. They're telling us what we can and can't eat. And I don't want to hear, well, they know better than us. No, they don't. They don't. Half of these people are ill-informed, and the other half that are informed, well, then they're just evil scumbags because they go along with it. So that ought to tell you the value of what they put on us. Nothing. They don't care about us. If you care about your kids, don't expect Congress to make it good food available for them. Seriously. And illegal to grow your own food. Absolutely disgusting. What say you?
There's like 9 million people, at least 9 million people that we know of who ingest these raw egg yolks, raw milk, raw cheese. They give it to their children, which the government says is child abuse, by the way. And I'm sure they're going to start taking kids away over it. And they already do when a kid is obese. They sometimes take the kid and send it to the state. But there's like they like to say, the CDC likes to say that there's been 2 deaths, but no. And of course, it's never traced back to any real person or anything. And they even pulled that in 1945. They did a fake unpasteurized study on a town that didn't exist. And that's how they got that one in. But there's people who do this every day and they don't die. Pregnant women do it. They do it with their children. All of the stuff that we hear about is a myth. And I would just love it if everyone who listened to the nightly news, the corporate run news, would just think for a second of the implication of that. Like, first of all, it's insulting. It should insult everyone's intelligence oh my God, if I didn't have these government people shutting all these people down, something would hurt me, when the people watching the news themselves don't even go out there and drink this raw milk or anything. It's insane. And when you quoted, I like to call him Henry Kiss Assinger. That's what I call him, even though that's kind of making light of how absolutely corrupt and evil he is. But if we control if I control the food, I control the people. And these people, Henry Kissinger referred to soldiers and other people as dogs and dumb animals. And that's what I want to get through to everybody is we got to stop thinking that any of these people in this big machine care about us. And that's like the biggest hurdle to get over, because a lot of people, they don't think like a criminal. They don't think like that. So they don't think that there would be anyone out there working for the U.S. government or the UN who would want to harm anyone. They look at people as useless feeders. That's what they look at people. Maybe not the people in the bottom rung who say they're just doing their job, or the bureaucrat who comes to your door, but they're complicit in it, like you said. And you mentioned something that made me think of the Terminator, because this is what they're doing. They're terminating all these places. And if you remember the first Terminator movie, Kyle Reese is trying to get this message into Sarah Connor's head, and he says, listen and understand. The Terminator is out there. It can't be bargained with. It can't be reasoned with. It doesn't feel pity or remorse or fear, and it absolutely will not stop ever until you are dead. And I'm not sure if people would go that extreme about the food thing. I would. But basically, when you're talking about a machine that's going out and doing this, it isn't going to stop. It won't stop when these people, all these farms are shut down. It will go into your homes. It's already going into your backyards and your front yard gardens. It's not going to stop, and until we stop allowing it. Because what do they say about a bully? It's the only way. And they always pick on the most passive, peaceful people first, and they're waiting to see what you're going to do about it, how you're going to react.
Yep, and people need to stand up for this. I mean, it doesn't matter, again, like I said earlier, it doesn't matter if you agree with raw milk. You could hate milk. You could say even raw unpasteurized milk is no good. People shouldn't be drinking it. It's disgusting. I have friends that have said that to me. I don't personally drink milk. As I said, I drink almond milk. Okay, but that's my personal choice. But I have to defend the people's right to drink milk if they want to drink it. Okay, if I don't, and that right gets taken away from them, what's to stop the same people from turning around and then saying, well, you know what, we decided almond milk is now no longer good for you. Or, we decided talk radio is not good for your health. It gets people's blood pressure up. Some people get angry. People get mad at Sean Hannity or Rush Limbaugh, or even, I piss people off from time to time with some of the things I say. So, you know what? All talk radio has to be shut down because one person could have a heart attack from it. And, the way they look at things, especially with gun control, right? If we can save just one life, Heather, then, banning everything is worth it. Even breathing should be regulated to a certain extent, I guess, because, hey, if you breathe too much, perhaps you could get oxygen poisoning. I mean, I don't know. I don't even know if that's possible, but
they want to tax it. They want to do that. And it's like, if you mentioned David Icke, and I went to one of his long conferences, and he points out how when you're talking about the elitists and the kind of frequency they induce on the population, making people feel worthless, like they don't have a right or a leg to stand on, and that they should feel bad for even taking a breath of air. And, it's like if you wonder why you feel like that sometimes, and a lot of people feel like they're not worth it, you might want to look into where that message is coming from.
Well, yeah, they get you.
Yeah.
I mean, they got to beat you down. They got to demoralize you. There's a million ways they're attacking us. Why do you think they make people feel bad about global warming and man, bear, pig?
Yeah.
You must suffer because the polar bears are drowning. Let's just get something straight. Polar bears are aquatic animals. Say again, Popeye? Yes, that's right. Polar bears spend about 70 to 75% of their lives in the water. They're known to swim 100 miles out to sea, even further, in search of food. Oh, so when you saw those pictures of the polar bears swimming out in the middle of quote-unquote nowhere, That's normal polar bear behavior. But since most of you don't know that because Dancing with the Stars or the other retarded programs are on, if Man Bear Pig comes on and says, or if Al Gore comes on, I should say, and says Man Bear Pig is causing global warming and the polar bears are dying because of it, we must take away all your rights to protect you from Man Bear Pig, everybody goes, oh, those poor polar bears, oh my God. Appeal to emotion, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, snap out of it. I like animals just as much as the next person. I have a little zoo in my house, okay? I have 5 animals, all right? Trust me. I don't have any issue with animals, but it's an appeal to emotion. It's the same thing they're doing with the gun control garbage. It's appeal to emotion. Mm-hmm. Oh, my God, we can save one kid. We might be – I mean, did you – Biden's thing about the extra capacity magazines or the large capacity magazines, whatever the frig they're calling them nowadays. Well, if he had to reload, more often, maybe a child would have been saved. Really? Maybe an asteroid will fall out of the sky. Maybe somebody will get hit by a bus. I mean, this is just ridiculous. And people are falling for it because it's appeal to emotion. And it's on every angle, whether it's gun freedom, food freedom, freedom of speech, freedom of any type at all is under attack, ladies and gentlemen. Freedom. To quote Bill Cooper, freedom. So one thing we all have in common, without a doubt, freedom. All right, hour 1 is up, hour 2 coming up. Do not go anywhere. More with my guest, Heather Callaghan from Activist Post. Go check out her work. We'll be right back. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back with hour number 2 here on tonight's live Monday edition of Down the Rabbit Hole. I am your host, Popeye from FederalJack.com. It is February 25th, 2013. And today I am joined for 2 hours, and this is hour number 2 of those 2 hours, by my guest, Heather Callaghan. She is an investigative journalist. You can see all of her work over at Activist Post. And I'm going to tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, she really doesn't – she's not one of these bloggers that just throws some stuff, a couple sentences together, half-baked article and throws it up there. She really does a lot of research. That's why she's on the broadcast. Again, I wanted to bring her on actually earlier than I did, but being a one-man operation, I get swamped so much. Sometimes it's hard to do as much as I want to do all at once. But she's here now, and I'm going to tell you what, you need to follow up with her work and stay tuned to everything that she talks about because it's right in line with everything that I speak about on the broadcast. Okay? She's a very intelligent lady. She knows what she's talking about. Now, I'm going to play a little bit of audio for you, only a few minutes, guys, because the clip, I could let it go on for like 9 or 10 minutes, but I don't want to do that. I'd rather sit and pick Heather's brain because I only have her for another hour here. So I'm going to play a few minutes just of this audio really quick, and then I'll pause it. But this is the audio from the raid. Okay. In fact, I'll probably end up pausing it here or there and to interject, and I'm going to have to ask Heather's opinion on a few things because I know she's going to have something to say about what went down. And you can see the full video and in her articles. In fact, let me tell you really quick what the titles of her articles, so you can go check them out on Activist Post. If you go over to activistpost.com, look up, you can either look up Heather's name, okay, Heather Callaghan, or you can just look up the title of the one article is Judge Won't Drop Acquitted Charges in New Trial Against Raw Milk Farmer. And it was posted February 14th, 2013. So that gives you a date you can literally go look up. And the other one with the video of the raid, then I'm going to play just a little bit of audio, and then I'm going to stop it here and there because I got to pick Heather's brain about this. Final FDA raid and takeover of Morningland Raw Milk and Cheese Dairy. And that was posted on Monday, January 28th, 2013. And if you go in there, you'll be able to see the full video. And again, I'm only going to play a few minutes of the audio here because I want to pick Heather's brain, and I'm going to have to stop it through the audio anyway like I do, and I'm going to get her take on a few things. But I want you to hear, you're going to hear the people, the owners of the farm, talking to these agents, these tyrants, and listen to what they say. Oh, we're just doing our jobs. Just doing our jobs. Yeah, I've heard that someplace in history before.
The amount of cheese that you're planning to take today?
It's approximately 32,000 people.
Is that approximate, or is
well?
My
We don't
understanding
know.
is that there was a stipulated amount in the And you are with the Milk Board?
Yeah.
Okay. Your name, sir?
Jerry J. State Milk Board.
Jerry, Michael Evans. How are you?
I'm fine.
So, the real premise behind this, and I know that your office has received some calls from our congressmen and our senators over the course of the last 24, 48 hours. Is there a reason why the Milk Board would not allow them to test the actual cheese that's available?
I don't have anything to do with that.
And what are you doing here?
Calls. I'm just here to help these guys. I'm a farm inspector.
Okay.
I don't do anything with the plants.
So you're unwilling to make a statement for the press, for the record?
I've let Don make the statement.
Well, he's already said he won't make any statements.
I'm the same.
You're the same. So no one has any comment?
I have any comment.
Okay. So how much cheese are you planning to take out of here today?
I'm not even aware of that.
Yeah, I don't.
I'm just here to help.
Here to help load.
So who is it? Who is?
We're not even aware of how much product we're here to steal. I can't make this up. Heather, what say you?
We're just here to help. I won't go into anything. You know what it was? You could see them trying to fight off. I don't know if. What would you say? Do they feel ashamed? Or is it only because they're in the light of day with a camera in their face?
It's because they're in the light of day with a camera in their face. That's why.
I think so, because they certainly didn't show any remorse about devastating this family and this town.
Not one bit. Hold on, it gets worse, ladies and gentlemen. Here we go.
Who actually is with the Milk Board?
Don Falls.
Are there only three of you? You two gentlemen and
Don and Roger.
Ron and Roger.
Okay, and who is Roger? Is he here?
Yeah, Roger's here.
If you're helping unload the cheese, at what point do you stop? You know, who says, hey, that's enough?
Who's this gentleman in the car? Is he with you folk?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's Larry.
That's who?
It's Larry.
All right.
I thought you said there was just Don and Roger.
No, there's Don and Roger. It's five of them. And Larry.
Five.
Oh, Larry.
Okay.
Okay.
He actually has the paperwork.
He doesn't work for the
Don
Milk Board.
Folk. I read it. They have an order.
You gentlemen, do you work for the Milk Board?
Yep.
And you say you are a farmer?
Farm inspectors.
Did you say you farm?
Yeah, this farm inspector.
Oh, they're just farm inspectors.
So you're not farmers, you're farm inspectors.
No,
Oh, no.
Farm inspectors.
Do you consider labor to be of value?
Guys, I'm not going to get
in. I will say one thing, that your silence, the very fact that you are here is your statement. That is your statement.
You guys are entitled to your...
You bet you we're entitled.
That's right.
But not the entitlement that you probably approve of.
Who's this guy?
Are you with the Milk Board, sir?
Yes, sir. I work for Milk Board.
Your name, sir?
Larry Basson.
Michael Evans.
Nice to meet you. And you, the owner?
No, sir.
I'm
the
the
owner
owner.
is right here.
Well,
Mr. Dixon.
The state is the owner since it's been through court. I used to be the owner of the cheese.
As of this morning, you're the owner.
Well, I'm not.
Well, the state took possession of it. That's why there's an letter on the door.
I'm not the state, though.
You're representing the state.
I work for the state.
You represent the state. And you represent the state the same way Stalin, Hitler, Lenin, Mussolini, all of them did and did.
Don't forget Idi Amin.
I would like to say something here. We are praying for these men. We're praying for all of us for the repentance of our nation, to turn back to the one who created this world and this country and gave us one of the greatest countries on the face of the earth that we're now losing to what's happening, to what's going on. If there's any actual sicknesses or illnesses, I'd have no problem destroying the cheese myself. But there has been none. They haven't been able to prove any. This cheese was sold and given away to people with immune deficiencies, people who couldn't afford to buy it. We gave it to them. People who were going bankrupt, we gave it to them to try to help keep them alive as this country's being torn apart and rendered asunder. And there's a Bible verse that I would like to quote if you people wouldn't mind. If my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, I will heal their land.
Amen.
we're seeing the fulfillment of our wicked ways as a people. And that includes each and every one of us. These men are here to just do a job. They're hired and paid. They don't think beyond that necessarily. I have pity for them. I feel sorry for them, because all of us will meet a just and accurate God at one point.
All right.
It just depends upon when.
And that's the owner you hear talking, ladies and gentlemen. Now, I could let it continue to go on and on and on, but I want to pick Heather's brain on this a little bit. So, what's the outcome of this raid, Heather? I mean, now people have heard I was just doing my job following orders crap from these people. They've actually heard the audio of a little bit of audio from the raid. I urge you to actually go watch the video, because when you see the look of shame on these people's faces, you can see that there's a bit of shame, but they know what, maybe not shame, they know what they're doing is wrong, but they do it anyway. Maybe shame's the wrong term. I don't know what you'd call that. Scumbaggery? I don't know. But you can see it in their eyes. They know what they're doing is 110% just wrong, and they shouldn't be doing it. And then you heard the owner. I got to give this guy credit for what they're putting him through. He's a very peaceful man. I would have been at least more verbally upset. Not like I would have physically attacked the guys. I understand, they're just useless idiots, or in this case, useful idiots doing a job. But I would have been a lot more upset than this guy, and he was a lot calmer. Maybe, going through the course of time, it's mellowed him out, and he's got a different perspective on things. But, he did point out a lot of things. I think he did kind of jam it to him in a very polite way. He said, I feel very sorry for these people because they're just following orders. Mm-hmm. It's just unbelievable. What say you, Heather, about this whole thing? Like, first of all, your take on the raid, the audio, the video that I know you've seen the whole thing, and then what's happened since then?
You mean with the family?
Are they able to produce cheese again, or have they been shut down?
No, they're never going to be able to do that again. That's why they're looking for the new chapter in their lives. And since that was $250,000 worth of cheese, and they've had to try to struggle to support themselves during that whole 2-year battle while that cheese was embargoed and then destroyed in this past January, now they have to start all over, probably in debt. And the man that you heard, his name's Joe Dixon, he had to go back out on the road and work again. And what they did was, not too long ago, a number of years back, they took all their money and assets and bought this company. It was a cheese factory that was working, and the owners of that factory were either going to shut it down or sell it. The Dixons came along and wanted to buy it because they wanted to work as a family and then get their other family members some work, and some people in the Ozarks and the people who were already running the place. And Joe Dixon was on the road all the time doing electrical engineering work. And he wanted to be with his family. He wanted to get off the sales, off the driving across the country and everything. And they put 2 years into preparation for buying this place. The wife did a 2-year internship just to learn every single facet and to keep it pristine and clean. And they complied with every law, every regulation, every inspection, and they just poured their hearts and souls into it. And it's like he says, if I thought something was wrong with it, I would never want to hurt somebody. I would destroy it myself. But they never got that closure, really. And so there's a donation set up for them, because what they were doing while this was all going on was asking people to sponsor a piece of cheese, like basically for each pound of cheese that got lost, is like somebody would be like, I'll buy that for you, even though nobody was going to get any cheese, I'll take that burden off your hands.
Oh, that's cool. So they purchase the pound, even though the cheese was destroyed, they still purchase a certain weight. Oh, that's a great idea. How can people support them and get behind that?
You can go to that article, and not only is there a donation app, but there's a link, because sometimes apps don't work, like after a while an article's been up. So I made sure to put the app in there, a link. You can also go to farmtoconsumer.org which is part of the Farm to Consumer Legal Defense Fund, which is how you can help all these farmers, because they will either get a lawyer to represent them, because it's all funded by us, or they will pay for that farmer or persecuted person to have the lawyer of their choice. And they get a lot of money from people like us, and they have employed some really great lawyers to help the people just like this. And so if you donate to them on their behalf, they'll make sure that it supports them, that it gets to them after all this fallout took place.
Do you know if they actually destroyed that cheese? Or if they took it and sold it? Because it wouldn't surprise me. They do the same thing with the drugs, so why wouldn't they do it with the food?
I don't know. I think they are fond of destroying things. Like, they couldn't get the people themselves to destroy it. They love to get us to do our dirty work and destroy our own labor, our own creations. They love that. They always try to get people to uproot their own gardens or dump their own milk. But then if they have to finally come out and do it, they like to pour blue dye into the milk tanks. They like to dump things. They like to uproot. And, I mean, I can tell you story after story of this. You know what? There is no confirmation. I mean, the video stops at a certain point after this, and they said they took it to a local dump, which is kind of ironic because they were worried about it being dangerous and said it wasn't fit to feed dogs, yet they're going to leave it in an open landfill where any kind of creature can get to it, basically any kind of, birds. And they were thinking that after 2 years in a lockdown cooler, the cheese was probably pretty bad at that point. I'm not sure, but I would think so. I mean, I don't even think the coolers were on. So
no, they're known for doing that. I mean, I've seen where they. I know a guy that he had, and this is out in Cali, and not that I know him personally, I should say I know of him. And it was one of these raids, and he got his stuff back, from the DEA eventually, and I forget exactly how he got it back in court with the details. But when he got it back, all of his product, all of the cannabis that was confiscated was moldy. Because they had kept it in, they don't have a lot of these storage warehouses for evidence. They do have the climate controlled stuff, but a lot of times to be dicks, they put things in the non-climate controlled warehouses and they let it sit out there and they'll let it go bad and rotten. And then if they lose the case, they go, oh, here, you can have all 18.2 tons of your rotten cheese back. I mean, that's what they would do.
Yeah, and they never gave Rossum Raid, they never gave them their computers back or their money. They took everything. They stole their money. And also the guy, I forget what his name is, James Stewart, he's still sitting in prison. He's still sitting in prison over that thing.
Just absolutely disgusting. Again,
so they will take your liberty.
Yeah, freedom. This is what this is about. It's freedom. Again, I don't care if you like to drink milk or not. It does not matter whether you agree with milk. You could be the most staunch anti-milk advocate there is. But you should defend someone's right to drink that milk. First of all, if that right was taken away, then you wouldn't have anything to do as an anti-milk advocate, right? And two, you'd have to find a new line of work. And two, then what happens when they take away the freedom for you to speak out and be an advocate of anti-anything? What happens when they say, oh, you can't be anti-anything now? Either you're pro-everything or you're done. You're gonna follow suit? You're going to change the way you look at things and the way you feel about the whole world just so you can continue to do what you do? You're gonna follow orders? What happens if they just say you can't even change up? You're just done. How about that? We're going to ruin your livelihood. And that's what this is. This is an attack on people's livelihoods, their food. This is not just a single-pronged fork. This is not a spear. It's like a fork. It's not like a little those wooden, those large wooden toothpicks they put through the food. It's not a single-edged thing like that. It's more like a massive fork built out of 40 or 50 of those things stabbing at once. That's what that is. That's what you see going on. It's about food. It's about freedom. It's about control. Again, what did you call him? Kiss-Assinger? I love that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Henry Kiss-Assinger. Just look him up, ladies and gentlemen. Evil.
And none of this stuff ever hurt anybody. That's the thing. There was no complaints. There was no sickness. Nobody was ever harmed in this. And you know, it's humiliating for these families and stuff, because it's the last thing they would ever want to happen. They get into this business to help people, and you heard Joe talking about giving all that free cheese away during the years to anybody who asked for it because he wanted them to stay alive.
I mean, how does anybody go against that? How does somebody rationally look at someone like that and say he's evil, Al-Qaeda? I mean, it's just... seriously, that's the way they look at everything after 9/11. Everything is, you know, law enforcement, we have to be tough, zero tolerance. It could lead to whatever, blah, blah, blah. You either do what we say or we smash you. I mean, it's insane. It's just utterly insane. It's like people getting arrested in Orlando for feeding the homeless. People, pay attention to what the hell's going on around you. I mean, I don't know if you see it, but like I said to Heather earlier, apparently we woke up one day and we were in Bizarro World. And everything was upside down. Like they threw the switch in the middle of the night. They were leading up to it, and suddenly they threw the switch and everything was like, huh? It really, that's the way... the world is a very different place than it was when I was a kid growing up. And even when I was, you know, into my late teens, into my early 20s, the world is drastically different. And since 9/11, we've allowed it to go downhill. Everything is all police state-ish now. Everybody has to, you know, cops don't look like cops anymore. They don't look like peace officers. Now they look like stormtroopers. And for what? I mean, Heather, what would have happened if when they were raiding Rawson, like I said the first hour, you know, they have those guns they scan the barcodes and stuff with, and it gives the readout. The owner of Rawson had talked about this in an interview. He said, you know, my guys have those things, the readout, whatever the frig they're called. What happens if one of them walked out? They have holsters that look like guns. What happens if they were walking out of one of like the refrigerators or whatever in the back, and as they walked out, or the cooler or whatever the frig they had back there, and one of the cops that came in with his guns drawn sees this, thinks it's a gun because, you know, they remember, ladies and gentlemen, they don't hire the smartest guys to be police officers anymore. I mean, there's been cases where guys have been too smart and they can't get a job as a cop because they're too intelligent. So you get, you know, Barney Fife running in with his gun drawn for the first time, and he actually gets to feel like a man because he's got a gun in his hands, and he's been playing Call of Duty his whole life, and he's got an IQ of about 70, and he sees a homeboy with a scanner, goes, gun, boom, 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 and kills the guy for nothing. And you know what the police would say? Well, it was justified. It was a raid, and the officer didn't know his life and the lives of other police officers could have been in danger. That's the kind of garbage that you'll hear come out of a situation like that. And for what? Over what? So instead of hate, I mean, you should get mad at the abuse of the authority and stuff by the police, but we should not just get mad at the players. We should actually get mad at the game and the people that set the game up to begin with. And again, that goes back to the UN agenda of Codex Alimentarius, ladies and gentlemen. You need to pay attention and look this stuff. All right, we're going to break. Bottom of the hour coming up. We'll be back in a few minutes. Don't go anywhere. Final segment with Heather coming up. Again, go to activistpost.com and check her workout. Ladies and gentlemen, if we don't get together and stop arguing amongst ourselves, we're not going to be able to get through this, and we are going to get spanked like a bunch of redheaded stepchildren. And that's just a matter of fact. What do I mean by that? Well, we all don't have to like one another, but we certainly have to look out for one another's interests, because your interests are my interests, and my interests are your interests. At least the freedom of those interests connects all of us. That's just the way it is. I keep repeating this, you know, and I don't remember which speech it was at, but Cooper talked about it. You can just look it up on YouTube. I'm sure you'll find the video of it. It's a video clip. And he says all the time, what's the one thing, the one major thing that we all have in common, no matter if you're a Muslim or a Christian or a Jew or you're purple with polka dots, it doesn't matter if you believe in raw food, pizza, Burger King, guns, you don't like guns, you like abortion, you don't like abortion. It does not matter what idea, what little, whatever you want to label, if you want to label yourself, you want to marginalize yourself like that, doesn't matter what you believe in. The one common glue amongst all of that is freedom. Freedom. And if we do not all come together and start working together and put aside some of our petty, retarded differences, seriously, and that includes the people that have egos in this whole thing, and as Heather and I, we were talking during the break and she agrees, can't stand the word movement. Okay, everybody knows I hate that word. Heather can't stand it either. Okay, I like to refer to it as the evolution. I cannot stand the word movement. But there are egos in this thing, and they need to put that aside because that's getting in the way. Okay, and that's your pettiness that you need to put aside. Other people need to put aside their petty hatred of other people. Look, we can bicker and argue later on, okay, when freedom is a little freer, I guess you could say. But for right now, just like the Founding Fathers who didn't get along and afterwards they dueled each other and shot at each other, okay, they still found enough time to get along and come up with this great experiment, okay? And that's why I do the things I do when it comes to showcasing a lot of, bloggers or radio show hosts or whoever. That maybe people either don't know about or haven't heard yet, or maybe they haven't gotten a spotlight, all the way up to people like Heather, who is very well known, very well read, very well, she's like hip deep in this whole fight, okay, ladies and gentlemen. And I believe if we don't take care of each other, we are screwed. And in that vein, I want Heather to take like 2 minutes at least, or however long it takes, even if it's only 30 seconds, explain how the listeners can go see all of your articles, not just the 2 that we've been talking about tonight, because I know you've been working on this and a ton of other things for a very long time, and people need to just pay attention to her work, spread the links out. I'm willing to bet that the way she writes her articles, it's matter of fact, but it doesn't come across fear-mongering. It's very easy for someone who maybe isn't fully awake yet to take in and go, wow, that is kind of effed up. Why would they raid a raw milk farm? Or why would they do this? Why would they do that? The way she writes doesn't come across like, woo. It's not scary, and it doesn't come across kooky either. So I think people, I shouldn't say I want, because it's not about what I want, but what I would urge you to do, okay, is go read her articles, check her stuff out, and if you like her work, spread the links to her work and tell other people about her work so they can pay attention to the stuff she writes about, because I guarantee just from doing that, at least 1 or 2 people will wake up. And hey, if we look at things the way the elites do, if we save at least 1 person, right? So, Heather, how can people see all of your articles if they go to Activist Post? Is that the best spot to go?
Yes, I'm exclusive to activistpost.com. I'm part of their team, and I help manage with things and write and edit. So that is where you're going to find me the most. You can, if you just want to see only mine, if you're curious about what Popeye was talking about, then you can go to contributors link. It's on the menu bar, and just scroll down until you see Heather Callaghan, and you can click and see what articles that I've done. And also, Activist Post, there's original articles by Activist Post, and they do a lot of the same subject matter. And you can use our search box, which is also pretty good at pulling up food freedom issues, and type in whatever you like in there, and you'll pull up pretty much a whole library of articles, because we've been around since 2010.
I like Activist Post. You guys do a good job over there, and yeah, there is a ton. You guys especially cover a lot of the food freedom stuff that. There are links on even Federal Jack and many other websites going back. I could give you 10 different websites to go look up stuff on, or I could just tell you to go look at the website that they all link back to, including me, on many stuff when it comes to food-related issues, and that would be activistpost.com. And I'm not, the guys over at Activist Post don't pay me anything to say that. I'm not blowing them up, or, I love Activist Post. It's not like that. I'm not kissing anybody's butt, but I do use them as a reference source. So if I'm using them as a reference source, then, I'm not. Why would I not tell you to go out and do it? You know what I mean? And Heather's one of the writers over there. I would say you're more than just a quote unquote contributor. I hate that term because it makes you sound like, well, I contribute once in a while. I send an email in once in a while, and you do a lot more than that. I would say you're one of their main heavy hitter writers.
Well, thank you, and thank you for the gracious. I was going to say intro there, but the gracious giving me the floor to do that, because I really do just want to get the information out there, but also for it to actually do something. And no, I don't want to just scaremonger people, and I really don't like it when I do feel the need to use like a more sensational title, and those are the ones that get people riled up, or the negative ones, because I write positive victory articles, and it's true, they don't do as well. The victory articles are the positive ones, and I actually, the whole reason I started doing this was try to empower people with solutions, which is what activist posts, and I would say Federal Jack, are about. You know, empowering people to either stand together or do something for yourself. And if you do, and I always say this, if you do one thing, if you share anybody's articles, or you write something yourself, or you just talk to another person, you could call yourself an activist if you wanted to, because you did something. And one of my favorite sayings is, the smallest action is greater than the biggest intention. And I got it from another radio show host.
I like that. And, you know, I tell people all the time, it's pretty much the same thing. I tell people it doesn't matter if you're throwing a 5-pound boulder, you know, into, or a 5-pound rock, or a 50-pound boulder into a pond, or you take a little pebble and you chuck that thing into the pond. Either way, the ripple is felt all the way across the pond. So everybody has an effect no matter what they do. And people need to focus on the good just as much as the bad. I always try to put out solutions in one way, shape, or form, even if it's just telling people, you know, the last minute of the broadcast, you know, don't buy into the fear porn, educate yourselves. And I always end the broadcast telling the listeners that I love them for a reason, because I'm not trying to be, you know, cheesy or anything like that. I'm saying it because that's why I do this stuff. I have love for humanity. Otherwise, I wouldn't be coming up here. I don't make any money doing any of this at all. In fact, I spend money and pay money out of my pocket just to have Federal Jack and all this stuff up. So I don't make any great fortune on this. I do this out of love. And I try to make people, I try to close with that, because no matter how much negative crap I talk about, and I talk about a lot of negative stuff. I know I get into stuff that other hosts don't even want to touch. Okay, and I'm not patting myself on the back. I'm just saying there are things I talk about that are super dark. But I still try to put out some sort of positivity, because I can't bring you that type of information and then leave you hanging like there's no way to fix it. Because I see all too often, even people that mean well, Heather, they'll say to me, dude, you know, people are stupid. No one's listening. I want to quit. I have a lot of friends that have put shows on hiatus, or taken their websites down, or just taken themselves and put on hiatus or whatever. And a lot of them seem disheartened. Like they're, you know, they've given, not that they've given up, but they just, right now they feel so, like there's no hope, I guess. Or like, wow, people are stupid. We're really screwed. We're never going to win, you know. And that's what the powers that shouldn't be want. They need us to think like that. In all actuality, we do outnumber them, and I know there's a lot of dumb people out there, and I know it seems hopeless, but I got to tell you, it's inevitable that they are going down the crapper. Okay, what we see is their last scramblings of trying to hold on to whatever power they can. That's why they're trying to push it into a violent fight, because they can control that. They have foreign troops, the UN, they have, you know, their own, the troops that here in the States that might fire on people. You have the FEMA camps set up, the police being trained and stuff. But what they're not ready for is a nonviolent evolution. They're ready for a violent revolution, but they cannot handle or control a nonviolent evolution. And that's why they're trying to keep everybody in base consciousness through fear and all this other garbage, and then push everybody towards a violent civil war, because that's the only outcome they can control, because they're scared. They're scared to death. What say you, Heather?
Absolutely, you said everything that I wanted to say, because that is their language. They can only operate on this like 5 cents, maybe with maybe some intellect or using technology, which is why they love using technology. You got the GMOs, and you've got also the war technology and force, and they have to use force, and they do not speak the language of consciousness. They don't know how to handle light. They don't know how to handle that. So they are scared to death of us figuring it out and waking up and rising to the surface and overcoming, because honestly, we are way bigger than we give ourselves credit for. As an individual, you are very precious, and I know what you mean when you say I love you. It's very powerful, and I feel the same way. I love you, whoever is listening, and if there's anything I could ever do for you, I would. And when people ask me about raw milk or they want information, I don't care how late it is, I'm going to try to help that person. And I'm sure you do the same thing, and you do. You've made yourself available to people, and you work really hard to do that and provide these shows. And I don't think, you were talking to me during the break, I don't think everyone out there realizes everything that Popeye does to make sure that you get to listen to this convenient archive on it, on its own page with an MP3 player in it, which is really nice. He's doing all that work, and he's doing a lot of editing to make sure that you have this great listening experience, but he's putting in a lot of extra time to do that. And so, it is a labor of love. And I didn't want to go back to plugging and everything, but for people who don't go to the website or they don't want to sign up for the newsletter, then, make sure you catch us on Facebook and Twitter. It's basically just like twitter.com/activistpost. And I would say, also look for Federal Jack and Down the Rabbit Hole. Let's all get connected.
I agree. And no, I want you to plug Activist Post, because, I talk about articles from you guys a lot, and I've often plugged, I don't come on every day and go, I love this site or I love that site, but if I read an article from you guys or something on air, I'll always plug the website. I think Activist Post is a great idea. I think more people should do things like that. More people should be coming together. We need to stop being afraid to talk to each other and interact with one another. Guess what? You'll find out, amazingly, we all have a lot in common. Well, imagine that. Humans have a lot in common with each other. Wow, I'll bet cats and dogs think the same way about each other, right? Come on, ladies and gentlemen. This is common sense. They've just dumbed us down and retarded us as humans. Retarding not mean being a like in the pejorative type sense or an attack on anybody, but retarded in the original definition of the term retarded, meaning to slow down. And our thinking, our way of thinking, our way of looking at each other and dealing with each other has been retarded. And the only way that's going to get fixed is if we do it ourselves. You can't keep waiting for some Superman-type figure to come out, whether it's the government or if you've broken away from the government, you expect some sort of truth movement figure to come in with a cape on and save you. That ain't going to happen. That's not how we're going to fix this. No one person out there can save you. Only you can save you. I'm not Superman. I come on here all the time and tell you all, I am no better than any of you. We are all equal. My job is that of Morpheus. I'm just here to wake you up and show you your own true potential and your own true power. And then what you do with that is your choice. That's the beauty of it. True freedom. Choice. Everything starts with a choice. What say you, Heather?
I say that's amazing. And when you were telling me or saying that about Morpheus and stuff, I pictured, at a certain point when you were feeling your way around this, someone or some organizations probably helped you up, helped you and ushered you in and maybe welcomed you. And it's like, it would be really nice if everyone turned around and did the same thing to someone else. And it doesn't really take much. There's some people who are completely closed off to it. They're not ready. They're not ready for it yet because so much responsibility, and it feels burdensome at times because you feel like you have to do something. But think about how, as much as what people like the writers or the people speaking on radio shows do, but also think of how little that is in the whole scheme of things, like in your whole life. You know how, I mean, it's a lot of effort, but then for the whole scheme of things, it doesn't take much for us to speak out or try to help somebody else, you know. And everybody, you know, for the people who say there's a lot of stupid people out there, well, it's not by accident, you know. And it also, it wasn't long ago that we were in the dark. We got to remember, you know, like it's like the criticism is kind of like a poison, I think. You know, it's like if you're actually hurting yourself when you do that. And you're also afraid, you know, when you're criticizing other people. It's kind of saying that you're afraid of something. You're afraid to go forward and do something. Maybe you're afraid to fail. Maybe you're afraid it won't help.
Or they're afraid that the information, a lot of times I see, it might conflict with personal beliefs, a lot of times religious ones, and I'm not picking on anybody. But again, when you go on this path, no matter who goes on this path, anybody that's gone down this road will tell you it has drastically changed every aspect of their lives once you start to realize and open up to what's going on. And it doesn't mean that you're an Illuminati nutbag if you read David Icke's books and you think that there is some credence to some of the stuff he talks about. Now, I want to, you know, it doesn't mean that I think that, you know, reptilians are running the planet. But what you can take away, especially like his first book, The Biggest Secret, which is, there's a lot of good stuff in there about the bloodlines and everything else. When he talks about these reptilians and stuff, so people, you know, when you look at that type of information, don't laugh at it like the Pavlovian response that we've all, you know, operant conditioning, like you make fun of zombies, quote unquote, for doing, right? I'm not saying that what he's saying, and I'm not saying Ike is correct if he says they're in the moon or whatever, and controlling things. I don't know, but what I do know is that he's correct when he says a lot of these ancient cultures believed in that. And that even if it's not true, these morons that are in power currently believe in this type of stuff. All right, whether they call them demons or reptilians, whatever, they worship whatever it is that they want to really classify this dark force as. Whatever it is, okay? Whatever it is, it doesn't matter if you believe in that. These people believe in that stuff. And if you don't respect the fact that they do, doesn't mean that you have to believe it's real, but if you don't respect the fact that your enemy does believe in this stuff, you're not going to have a chance to ever win the battle that's going on, okay? Because you won't really understand the true nature of your enemy. To understand what I'm talking about, if you don't know, go read The Art of War by Sun Tzu. It's about 5,000 years old, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not kidding. Go read it. The Art of War by Sun Tzu. Take some time and read it. Go look it up on Amazon. It's definitely worth the read. That'll help you understand your enemy a little bit better, because guess what? They've read it. And they're using a lot of the basic principles in there against you and against me, and against Heather, and against everybody else. Your kids, your mother, your father, your brother, your sister, your wife. Everyone. Everyone across the board. Heather, we got about 2 minutes left. I want you to plug everything one more time. I don't care. Go ahead, plug all your stuff on Activist Post, Twitter, and if anybody's got any info or scoops or anything that they think that you might, you know, do a good job of breaking wide open or whatever, is there an email at Activist Post that they can get in touch with you at?
Absolutely. That would be great. I welcome that. I welcome any kind of leads or something that you want me to look into or try to post. Heather at activistpost.com. You can always write to us at Activist Post anytime by sending an email to submissions at activistpost.com. You can find us at activistpost.com. If you want to look up a certain author, maybe like myself, then you go to the contributors page, because it includes, we have like probably over 100 listed there. And so you can find a lot of different authors and see just snippets of what they've written. So you can click on a title, or you can click on their name and see a whole bunch of articles that they've written. So they're compiled that way too. And then if you're not you can sign up for our newsletter. And let me tell you, tonight's newsletter that we put out, 16 main articles that we posted, most of them all original, either from submissions or from us. That's huge. We do that every single day, Saturday and Sunday included, holidays included. And that's not all that we have in our newsletter. We have videos, forum posts, and links from around the web. So we get you very well-rounded news every day.
I agree. I agree, because I actually get the newsletter myself. I'm going to cut us off because the end of the break's coming up in about 20 seconds on us.
Okay.
Heather, just an amazing broadcast. And I'm going to have you back on because 2 hours isn't enough time to pick your brain. Obviously, you're very well researched and a very deep young lady. So I'm going to have you back on. Ladies and gentlemen, we are out of here. Remember what we said. We all need to come together and fight this crap and stop with the petty crap amongst ourselves for right now. Love you all. We're out of here.